One stormy night, the Midnight Gang had a plan to get rid of Matron once and for all.
They put some sleeping pills inside the chocolate, knowing Matron would steal them as usual. Once she was asleep, they knew they could tie her up with rope and take her through the magic portal. Tom, George, Amber and Robin pretended to go to sleep. George hid under his blanket with the chocolates and waited for Matron to catch him.
Matron marched over to George and ripped off the covers, and she stole the chocolates and ran into her office, and she shut the door. She scoffed the chocolates into her greedy mouth. Then suddenly, snap! Her head hits the table. Ouch! And she falls into a deep sleep.
The Midnight Gang crept quietly over to see Sally, and she pointed under her bed with a big grin on her face. George bent down and grabbed the rope and hid it under his dressing gown. All of a sudden, they hear a loud snore. Matron woke up by her own loud snoring, and she fell back down to the desk. "That was close," said Amber. They knew they needed to find help. Tom ran to find the porter. He came and helped the Midnight Gang because Porter knew how mean and selfish the Matron was.
George quickly tied her hands and strapped them to a chair. Robin pushed Matron out of the office. Quietly, they crept along the corridor towards the magic portal that was hidden down in the basement. Tom whispered, "Come on, everyone, let's go."
They stepped through the portal into the bright light, and they ended up in a dark, windy forest. They could hear some creepy noises, and it sounded like a wolf. It was scary, and they jumped in shock. Nervously, they started walking through the forest, huddled up together.
All of a sudden, Amber spotted something in the distance. "Look, guys, I can see something. Let's get a bit closer." Amber led the way and realised it was an old, shabby shed. It looked abandoned and creepy, and when they got closer, they could see there was lots of cobwebs hanging from the trees in the murky, misty atmosphere.
Meanwhile, back in the hospital, Dr. Lupus is wondering where everyone has gone. He notices some muddy footprints that lead down to the basement, and he spots the magic portal. He steps through and he's in the creepy forest. He shouts, "Hello! Is anyone there?" Robin said, "Guys, did you hear that?" They looked behind them and they saw Dr. Lupus coming towards them. Tom quickly told Dr. Lupus their plan to get rid of Matron once and for all. So Dr. Lupus helped the Midnight Gang get into the shed.
They opened the shed door and they saw that the tables and chairs were covered in mould. It smelled like stinking rotten wood. Screamed Dr. Lupus as we spotted a skeleton hanging in the corner.
big, hairy, fat rat scurried over Amber's feet and she stumbles backwards into George. He shouts, "Hey, get off me!" And Amber went over and said sorry.
Twigs.
Porter says, "Look guys, what are we going to do with Matron?" They all say,
Tie her to a chair. Here I go. Okay, they lift the matron out of the wheelchair, put on a moldy chair covered in rat poo and tiny spiders. They tied her up.
Suddenly they hear Robin screaming. Luckily, Porter has a torch and shines it at Robin. They all gasp as say Robin is surrounded by snakes that slithered out of her old rusty chest in the corner of the room.
Oh no.
Okay, lift the tongue.
Amber had a bottle of water in her pocket and she throws it at the snakes. The snakes shrink and Robin manages to get away. Tom peers inside the dirty, decaying chest and sees a sparkling key. Dr. Looper says, "Come on, we need to get back to the hospital before the principal notices we are gone." The porter grabs the key and they all go out, leaving Matron inside, and he locks the door.
They run as quickly as they can back to the portal.
They step through the portal and to their surprise they are not in the hospital. They discover they are in 1944 Germany in World War II. The portal must have transported them back in time. George says, "Oh no, this is not the hospital." They jump back into the portal and whoosh, they are in 1968 in Vietnam, where there is a war. They are in the middle of a battlefield. They can hear gunshots, people screaming. It's dark and all they can see in front of them are trees.
Porter says, "This is not the hospital, let's go back." They jump back into the portal and phew, they are back in the basement of the hospital. Meanwhile, back in the haunted shed, Matron wakes up. She starts to scream. Earlier that evening, Headmaster discovered the portal and was in the forest. He heard Matron shouting,
"Help!" He saw the shed, but the door was locked, and he found a crowbar and smashed the window and climbed through to rescue his beloved Matron. He unties a rope and lifts her into his arms, and he kicks the door open and carries her out of the shabby shed back into the portal. They end up in the trenches of World War I in 1917. In the meantime, back in the hospital, the Midnight Gang know they need to destroy the portal. Porter grabs his toolbox and gets out his hammer, and he gives it to Tom. "Go on," says Porter, "smash the portal." He swings the hammer 2 times and it smashes into 1,000,000 pieces. Dilly comes along eating a great big pasty, and she sees all a mess. She says, "Oi, you pesky kids, look at this mess. Get back into the ward and I will sort this out." Back in the ward, Sally is waiting patiently for her friends. They tell her all about how they got rid of Matron once and for all. Tootsie then walks in with lemonade and sweets, and they have a party to celebrate.